Welcome everybody to the weekend preview. This week it's Justin and I covering about 15 races today for the weekend, and some are graded, some are non-graded stakes, but it's a pretty good weekend in between now and the Derby for horses. We're, in fact, on the one on the screen right now, we have the former Breeders' Cup Juvenile winner, just FYI, in a very, very good grade 3 here. So welcome everybody. Justin, how you doing?
Doing good, brother. Good to be back. I think you and I did this once, maybe since NHC. I know we had a couple weeks off, and it's been a little bit crazy the last couple weeks, but I'm glad to be back. My left ear is completely plugged. I don't know if I'm sick or what, but it's we're gonna power through. I can hear out of my right ear pretty much, so that's good. Good racing this weekend. Laurel has a good card. Keeneland obviously has a good card. They've had good racing the last couple days, and yeah, looking forward to doing it.
Yeah, I'm excited about Laurel. Might be where I'm moving my tact after Oaklawn's over uh, as well. But um, you know, summer racing at Laurel, they have good turf racing, big fields a lot of times in those turf races, and tomorrow's no exception. Or not tomorrow, Saturday's no exception. But let's start off here with Keeneland Race 9 tomorrow, the Grade 3 Doubledogdare Stakes. And we're going a mile and a 16th on the dirt at Keeneland, which is the short run up and the short finish line. So let's take a look here, Justin. Who did you like on top here?
Yeah, I looked at this, and Patrick, Mr. Saletta, good to see you. Oldy, I landed on just FYI. The Keeneland dirt course, it has been so speed favoring, and
Yeah.
I just thought she looked tough here. So, comes back, has speed, big SOR obviously is for sure the class. Comes out of Gulfstream, which I always like to see. Gulfstream always ships in well to Keeneland. I was a little surprised only that she wasn't the favorite, although not that Candied isn't a nice horse, but I just thought Just FYI might have been the favorite there. But obviously didn't finish the year strong, right, last year. But
Yeah.
she has a lot of talent. I thought the speed at Keeneland would be tough. Second off the layoff for Bill Mott. The race last out's the question mark, right? Why couldn't she win that allowance? But I would forgive that race, give her a race, and I think she shows up.
Yeah. And that's where I landed on top as well. I don't entirely trust her,
Yeah.
just partially because of the last couple races. But Mott keeps putting her on the lead, and I don't think that's where she wants to be based on the races she's had the most success in. And
Hmm.
that concerns me a little bit. I do think she probably needed the race. Mott a lot of times needs a race off a layoff. And,
Yeah.
I think that's why he went in an allowance there and why he's making the aggressive move up in a grade 3 that's essentially a grade 1 just without Torpedo Anna here.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
so but I agree with you. I didn't have a lot of confidence there. I definitely would probably be using others in any type of
yeah.
horizontal ticket. She wouldn't be a single for me, Oldie, but I did put her on top.
Yeah. And, the one I looked at the hardest between her and the 7 horse Occult. And Occult is actually the older horse in the field, is a 5-year-old, so not coming out of that same now 4-year-old, but 3-year-old Oaks group from last year where Candide, Tarifa, and Just FYI came out of. And, Occult's been close a couple times to a big breakthrough, both in the Spinster, the Gopher Wand. And I think that if there ends up being more speed here than we think, a colt's going to be, I like and trust a colt more than I trust Candide, who's only faced, the same age horses as herself. So that's how I ended up on a colt as my second pick there. She's 7-2, 5-2 on the morning line, 12% to win. She's been in the money all three times at the distance. And, I just think she might be the maturity here and going back to two turns might be the way to go with her for Chad. And Chad has a habit of winning these types of races.
So, um, I could see that, and I think you can go a lot of different ways underneath. I ended up landing Oldie. My second pick was Tarifa, and mainly because I think she could show speed. And to your point,
Yeah,
maybe just FYI does take back, and flow rides. I think that she obviously has talent. She's hit the board in 9 of 11, 5 wins. She's grade 2 winner. This shows up as a grade 3, obviously, a pretty tough grade 3, but she also won the Fairgrounds Oaks, right? Raced really well at
right.
Fairgrounds last spring, and I mean, has one at 8.5, one at 9, a Cox runner. So I thought she actually had a pretty good look, whether she was up front or she tries to sit off the pace. I think Florent's going to have the option to kind of decide, second
Yeah,
off the layoff as well. So, Godolphin homebred. I mean, all this, all the things point to her at 3-1. And I'm guessing you'll get everything around that price. My guess is most of the money is going to go to a Colt, your second pick there, and just FYI and Candide. And Tarifa might be the horse that gets, left alone a little bit. But I thought I had a big shot.
yeah. I mean, I think she'll get that just because it's Brad Cox. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but I think Candide goes off as the favorite. It probably underneath 8-5
Yeah. Yeah. And
would
that,
be my
I
guess.
mean, I did put her third, but I also thought a horse like Dreaming of Mo had some interest. But I was trying to beat Candide here. I didn't think she had to win.
Yeah, well,
So
that's been the story of her career is that she doesn't win.
yeah, no,
You know
exactly.
that since a 2-year-old, the only win she has is in a non-graded stakes race, but she's always
Hmm.
close. And for me, she's just that's kind of the type of horse she is. I mean, in that Spinster, she broke better, showed more speed, and then didn't finish.
Hmm. Hmm.
So the for me, I left her off. I used Tarifa in the third spot there.
Yeah.
Good evening,
Mr.
Dave.
Dave. Good evening, Dave. Yes, good to see you.
Yeah,
All right. So I was 1-5, and then really maybe the 4 or 6. You're 1-7-5, it sounds like.
yep,
All right.
correct.
Yeah, and again, it's a good race though. I'm excited to watch that one
Yeah,
tomorrow. I think competitive race, I would say.
definitely. So then we're moving
That was the only stakes tomorrow,
stakes.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, it was a pretty weak day in terms of that, but Saturday kind of makes up for it because there's about 14, I think, on Saturday. So
Yeah. It's still, you're right. It is good
yeah,
stakes day. All right. The Bay Shore over at the Big A.
the Bayshore at the Big A. Um, this is a non-graded stake, 76 SOR, and this is Saturday, race 8 at Aqueduct, going 7 furlongs. And this is, hey Matt, how you doing? And so Moplex for me was my top pick here.
Hey man.
The top win percentage, top SOR, top GSR, and top pace. So what I would call all the metrics, top on all of them. Um, I just didn't see much of a way around Moplex. Won the funny side, um, wasn't good enough in the Champagne, but has bounced back pretty well. Nearly won the Gander first off the layoff, And I just didn't think there was a lot in this field, even though the SOR is pretty high.
Yeah, I wanted to try to get around Moplex Oldy. I was trying to find ways, and I almost did, but I ended up putting Moplex on top. I agree with everything. I think the part that put me over the top is, and I didn't get a chance to watch the race yet, but he bobbled last out.
Yeah,
It was a short field, broke slow, usually breaks better, but bobbled, and then ultimately it looks like somewhat probably dueled would be my guess, right? And that's tough to come off the
yeah,
layoff. Probably got a lot out of that race as a 3-year-old. I don't think probably took too much out. I mean, looked to come out. It's just been working after that March race. Looks fine. Came out strong. I think it's going to be tough. To your point, so I agree with you. I don't think 7 furlongs will probably be an issue. Has been running 6 and the one churn 8. So definitely looks like a sprinter. You have all those metrics to your point.
yeah,
Manny rides back, and I think will be a short price, right? Obviously, some money I think will go to the 1 and 3. I had more interest in the 1 personally, but I
yeah,
did think Moplex would probably be tough on top.
yeah. No, I agree with you on who I had more interest on as well. But and also Horse to Watch says that the horses with these metrics win 52% of the time, which is right about the numbers I have as well. So, um,
Well, which is
that
good in a race like this because only 38% in this race, but in
yeah,
general, when horses have all of those key metrics, they perform a little bit better.
yes, exactly. Um, yeah. So, the do you want to talk a little bit about the one horse here, Pascaline?
I almost put Pascaline on top, Oldie, and I think probably still runs a really great
Yeah,
race. I mean, one back to back, both at or once at Laurel and once at Colonial. Obviously, did an impressive, winning by 2 lengths in both efforts, both times off the pace. From a maiden special, broke, ran well first time out, and it's never easy to come back and win. And comes back and
yeah,
wins a month later, kind of stalking, sitting the trip, just kind of pounces and wins easy. So I think Delacour has a good one. The reason part, Oldie, that I really liked him too. I mean, this horse looks to be working lights out off the return, and Delacour
yeah,
obviously does really well from that angle. The GSR goes up a little bit. I mean, a very similar kind of looking horse for me versus the 4. The 4 just had a little more races, so I thought might be, and looks to be a little bit maybe more talented, but it's hard to know versus the 1. But I thought Pascaline looked, fairly tough. Could sit the trip probably again, Oldie. I thought had a big look.
yeah. A West Virginia bred that's never raced in West Virginia,
Yeah,
and my concern here is when facing this level of horses, breaking as slow as he tends
yeah,
to break. For me, with that was kind of the difference maker here was that
yeah.
I,
I could see that. I mean, small field, but you're right. I mean,
yeah,
this horse is it could be it could be a little bit far back, and there's not a lot of speed here either, right? I
right.
mean, it doesn't look like there's necessarily a big hot pace signed on. So I would agree with you. I mean, that horse could get shuffled if it doesn't break well and could end up being in last in the race.
Yeah, and could still end up winning. I mean, could just be that much better, but um, I'm guessing won't be as souped up as it. I mean, even with these huge works as it was before it went on the shelf. I don't know what the reason it was out for that long for was as well. And, but really I feel like it needs to break better against this level of competition. You're not facing 2-year olds at Laurel anymore. So
Yeah,
that was kind of my
yeah,
impression there. But I was really I thought this race was really chalky. Even my third choice, Faster Gator, the 3, is 5-2 on the morning line. And, I'm not sure this horse wants the added distance. Um, does have some speed, does have some huge works. Another shipper from Laurel coming in, Boca Chica, Farrier here. You know, that this horse also undefeated, does have the one race off the layoff, but again, steps that this horse had was a step slow. So, you know, we have it as the one competitor to Moplex here. But if this horse breaks slow again and is a step slow and that's becoming a habit, Moplex is going to get an easy lead potentially here.
Yeah, no, and I agree with you. I think that's a little bit. I think why the four looked to had the experience, Oldy has the speed, doesn't necessarily look like a really fast pace that might be up front. So Moplex just may have it his own way, and man, he rides. So
Yep.
the more we talk about this race, I end up with a little bit more confidence even in Moplex. So it's definitely, I mean, it'll be the chalk probably, but it does look to be like a deserving favorite.
Yes, for sure. All
All
right.
right, how many did we have there? Just one at the Big
Just
A?
one at the Big A. So we're on to Keeneland here. And this was a real interesting race. And I thought I thought you could get a bomb here. And
I
you definitely
I
could find an upset.
I agree, and I really like my pick. I'm gonna let you go first, but I this was an amazing race, and this is why I love Keeneland, right? You get all these
Yeah.
shippers, but I'd be curious where you landed, but I also agree. I'm taking a price in this race for sure.
All right. So on top, I landed on Balnikov for Phil D'Amato with Flo aboard. I think is the one true closer in this field. I think there's a lot of speed signed on, and you know that this horse nearly won the Hollywood Turf Cup at 12 furlongs, same distance as today, in a Grade Two against a similar field, and has performed well at 11 to I think 9. You know that might have been too short in some of these races in some of the tougher fields here. But I think that this horse at 8 to 1, it's 5%, 5 to 1 on the morning line, though, which tells you the morning line's seeing something there that maybe the other algorithms aren't seeing. And it does
Hmm.
increase in win percentage from the Pacific Classic. Uh, I think this horse could get the setup in a group of horses that just don't really like to win and could produce a price at 8 to 1, but it's not my biggest price in my amongst the horses I liked here.
All right, I don't disagree with you on Balnikov. I could see the angle there. Um, I think you said something that is I totally actually agree with, and I think that these you said they don't like to win. I think these horses do like to win. They None of them just are extreme standouts, though, right? I mean, none of them. We've watched a lot of these runners
Yeah,
run. They've been running. It's part of the reason. So I landed on Rebel Red, um, the one horse, and I don't necessarily like the one hole on the Keeneland turf, but
yeah.
I'm not too concerned about it, Oldie, because my we're at this water park and my son just walked in the room with a huge Mario stuffed animal that he just won in some video game.
Awesome.
But I don't worry because it's 12 furlongs. Yeah, Patrick. So I don't worry because it's 12 furlongs. I think it's Jose, it's Cherie DeVoe. I covered them obviously at Fairgrounds, Oldy, and they just dominated the meet together. And Jose dominated, and we all know Jose though, great
Yeah,
rider, great turf rider. Probably, he comes into Keeneland and has to face his brother and Louis, who end up picking a lot of the mounts. But he rode here for Cherie, has been riding for Cherie on Rebel Red, and Rebel Red's the lightly raced runner, Oldie, as a 5-year-old. And again, all of these others have been running quite a long time, have a ton of wins. But I thought Rebel Red could improve versus a group like this. Not that these horses aren't, nice horses, and some of them, I expect will
right.
run well. But when you look at Rebel Red's GSR, Oldie, it's long all day. 10.5 plus furlongs, 11 furlongs on the GSR plus grid. I mean, he wants
Yeah.
to go long. And then when you look at in handy view at the past performances, two back in the Red Smith ran 11 at the Big A, right? In a 9-horse field, it was in the 9 post and ends up running third, gets the lead and gets caught, and ended up dueling kind of in the lane. I'd be curious who was in that race. I'm not actually sure. I didn't get a chance to look yet, but I was like, oh, that's fairly impressive running 11. And then you look, I mean, came closing to Patrick's point in the chat. I agree with you, Patrick. Back at Keeneland and came absolutely flying, right? So I just thought that he had a big look, a good price, a little bit more of a lightly raced runner that could improve, and Cherie, I think, second off the claim, comes in from Fairgrounds, I thought would be, really tough closing. So, a little bit of a similar angle. You just have the far outside horse.
Yeah.
I have the inside horse.
Yeah, and I honestly thought the Rebel Red's going to be close to the pace. And
I
really, it's dependent on how the horse is broken. So I seem to be Mr. Horsebreaker here, but um, so uh, I honestly thought Rebel Red from the one hole is going to have to show speed. It's either that or you're going to end up super far back.
But the 3 and 11 are so fast. I just think that the one, I mean, one could take back a little bit, but because the 3 or 11 so fast, I mean, I think I'm guessing that Jose is going to try to get off the rail when he takes back because you don't really want to be in the one hole on. Yeah, I think that the 9 also has a look, Patrick, but um, I think Jose will take back a little bit, Oldy, or if Jose
Yeah.
breaks well, will then get out to more an outside path on that turf course. But we'll see. I mean, maybe Jose is sitting close and, the one horse is the horse that gets the first jump. I mean, he's shown the ability to sit close and run well as well. So, but that's where I landed. Going to be a good price, 8-10 to 1. I'm hoping so.
Well, and what you're describing is what I thought maybe my second choice, who's my bomb for stopping, who's 15 to 1 on the morning line, uh, you know, has run, nearly won the that race at Sam Houston. I'm not sure the exact, it might be JB Connolly um, stakes there. And, was sitting mid pack, sitting about 3 lengths back. And Poussin almost got home at 12 furlongs, has a win at 10 on the synthetic. It has a bunch of other distance races in it. And to me, it's Brendan Walsh. His horses have been running very well. Nearly won that same Red Smith, but the year before uh, at Aqueduct, has run well at Kentucky Downs and Saratoga at these distances. And I think the risk is priced in here at 15 to 1 or probably greater than that here. And I thought this horse has a real chance to pull off an upset here.
I love that you landed on this horse because I did like this horse a little bit, but then I ended up kind of getting off of it, and I said, it's whether I see in likes the 6, but I looked at a lot of these other runners, including, the 4, the 6, the 9, the 12 you already talked about. But Oldie, I mean, I didn't necessarily have a big preference outside of Rebel Red. You talked about the 12, the 4. I don't disagree with you with that horse getting back to the turf, could blow up the board. But I like the Rebel Red so much. I'd key Rebel Red in a tries and supers. I definitely would use the 4 underneath. I agree. I mean, this horse could run on at a price for sure. For my second pick, I ended up landing on the 9. Um, that is the other Cherie DeVoe.
Yeah.
And, missed the cut. This horse looks like the horse that's probably the closer, but maybe not. I mean, this horse has shown a little bit of speed going long. So, maybe Johnny V puts this horse closer to the pace. But I ended up really liking Rebel Red quite a bit more for Cherie. But I thought the 9 had a look, going to be, the outside post, probably closing if, maybe again, one of them ends up closer to the pace. I don't think that necessarily has to happen, but, and I thought she could get this horse to improve. She obviously debuted over at Gulfstream in the grade
Yeah,
2, didn't necessarily run, but I had a rough start, was checked early in the trouble line and then just kind of passed tiring horses. But has shown some past stability, hit the board in 10 of 18, obviously talented for a 6-year-old. So that's where I went. I mean, and again, I think, you know, um, you could talk about a lot of them underneath,
yeah.
outside of your top pick, in my opinion. So,
Well, I'll tell you why I had the 9 in third was I at least had a little bit of a suspicion that this horse does its best running on wet turf because
yeah,
those
you
two
can see
wins
it has those wins at Santa Anita on a good turf course.
as well as it ran well in the Elkhorn um, on a wet turf on a good turf course at Keeneland too. And I just feel like for the most part it hasn't shown the same thing. Even going back, its other wins, throughout the synthetic one were in were in Europe on wet
Mm-hmm.
turf courses.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
that for me moved the 9 down to third. But I think that it has a shot, and I could be wrong too there. Um, and I just think it didn't break well last time out. And, the race was over at the break for missed the cut. But can I address limited liability and why I don't think, not only do I not think limited liability is a single, but I think is a bad bet here and a
Yeah,
terrible
you
favorite.
you you can, but in going back to the 9 is 1 at 12 furlongs, which I thought,
Yeah,
you always like to see something like that, and you can
yes,
see everybody there. But Oldy, go back to that screen real quick, because then I'm going to let you talk about limited liability. But there's a reason why I really didn't like limited liability, Oldie, was that the 6 horse has never won at 12 furlongs in 4 tries, right? I mean, it has
yeah,
2 seconds and 2/3, but that horse doesn't like to win at 12. But keep going because I want to hear your thoughts about the
yeah.
6 as well.
All right. So first of all, I think the 6 wants longer. So that's the number
Yeah.
one thing. Is it's done its best running at marathon distances, 16 furlongs,
Yes.
things like
Yes.
that.
Yes.
Um, this horse was in that same Red Smith as Verstappen,
Yep.
and Verstappen finished significantly ahead of limited liability. The one win for limited liability came on the lead at 16 and a half on a speed favoring course at Kentucky Downs, and Kentucky Downs form doesn't transfer to other tracks. Also, the Red Smith here, Rebel Red, eh, was better than limited liability at 11 furlongs. Your second choice there
Yeah.
as well, or was that your
No,
first
my
choice?
top
Sorry.
choice.
Yeah, was better than the 9-5 favorite um, there as well for most of that race. I think Rebel Red or limited liability ended up finishing slightly ahead, but still, um, I think that it, the price difference between the two, 8-5 and 8-1, is one of those things that you have to look at and be like, that there's value in Rebel Red there if that were the case, if you like
Yeah.
limited liability. Um, that and this horse just doesn't win. I mean,
hmm I mean,
you
it's
look
hit the board in 14 of 20, but it has 7/3. And to
right,
your,
and it's
and to your point, Oli, they're all in these 11, 12 furlong races, but this horse actually does its best running, like you said, going,
yeah,
16, 16 and a half is its 2 best races recently.
yeah,
So,
and you look. I mean, other than that, it's beaten Allowance Company and broke its maiden.
yeah, no, I, it's totally a play against for me. The morning line actually tells you too at EE at 3-1
Yeah,
versus 8-5, and and obviously we all have our own opinions. I never could single that horse. I actually would probably, I'm
I
gonna
wouldn't use it.
play the one Oldie in a daily double as a bet for me, and we'll talk about the next race, I believe. So I liked Rebel Red that much. Yeah, I'm against the 6 for sure. I agree with your 12. I think the 4. We obviously should probably talk about Grand Sonata, Oldie,
Yeah,
because I'm assuming Grand Sonata actually going to be the favorite. I mean, maybe the 6 is the favorite, but Grand Sonata at a 4 to 5 or 9 to 5 morning line. I mean, this horse I kind of looked at and I'm like, oh, really? Grand Sonata? I mean, we've covered this horse a lot over the years,
yeah,
right? I mean, 6-year-old. I've probably bet this horse quite a few times. I don't remember the last time, so that's probably a good thing because has not been winning, but it has been facing much tougher, and horses that ship into Keeneland from Gulfstream always do well. But I also am not a huge fan of taking favorites in the Keeneland turf. I don't really like taking favorites at Keeneland, too often, but definitely not on the turf
right.
for me. So it was just kind of a play against. I think Grand Sonata will run a good race, but it's really why I liked Rebel Red so much, Oldie, because it was like, oh, you've been running. You've been running. Oh, you have won, but you haven't really won recently. Oh, I had so many knocks against other horses that it just made Rebel Red improve for me because Cherie should be able to get that horse to improve. So, but
And another
yeah,
horse that's done its best recent running at Kentucky Downs.
yeah, I saw that
Yeah,
too. You're right. There was a handful of horses like that. And again,
yeah,
that's part of why I went to Rebel Red. I mean, I'm like, well, Fairgrounds transitions okay to Keeneland. Obviously, Gulfstream predominantly. I think that's best on those shippers. But yeah, I'm with you. I mean, this horse's last race at one was at Kentucky Downs, only, and prior to that, and hadn't won a race since Saratoga, in summer of 23 in an allowance group.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I have a note on in the Grade 2 Fort Lauderdale that it had a perfect rail skimming trap, hung, and it wasn't good enough against a Grade 2 group that was a little better than this, but not much. And then it did against a similar group at Gulfstream last time out. It did the same thing pretty much and hung at the
I
finish.
I
And
do I do like our exacta oldie in the 112 as well.
yeah,
That I think that would be a great exacta. I think we're probably gonna get 50 to 1, maybe a little bit more. That would be that would be a great bet for me. And I like the super and try, but I'm gonna key the one, but I think you could key the 12 that you like. I just thought this was
yeah.
a great betting race.
Well, one other horse that I want to mention too. Let's call it my honorable mention horse. Is the 5 Utah Beach,
Okay.
who's 205 at the distance. Um,
Mhm.
hasn't been winning, but gets back to 12 furlongs, has won at Keeneland, won at Gulfstream. This is a little tougher of a group, but these are the type of horses you see win on the Keeneland turf, and 20 to 1 on the morning line, but 12 to 1 on the morning line for Nacho Correas here. And I think has the ability to win here. Probably won't, but has the ability and definitely is one to consider underneath.
Yeah, was underneath for me, but
Yeah,
all right. I'm on the 1, Rebel Red. You're on the 12, Baldnikov. Um, pair them together, and we got a good exactor for
yeah,
sure on Saturday. And then I'm daily doubling into is it race 10 or next? Yes, yes.
yeah. So I'm curious as to where you landed here because I landed on a price.
What did I? Um, you liked the okay. I like the 1, I believe, but I also like your horse. So I'm going to let you talk about your horse. I liked about 2 or 3 horses in this race, but I landed on the 1 for Brandon Walsh. With San Siro, and when I looked, Jody, I was like, wow, that New Orleans Classic at Fairgrounds came back in
Yeah.
80. And I know that Fairgrounds does throw a lot of high SORs, but I think in a way, a lot of them are, I would just say, truthful because those horses run. Go ahead.
So wasn't uh, the horse that won the Breeders' Cup Classic? Why am I trying to blank on the name? um, was in that race. That's why it's an 80. That the state bred horse won that race. The for
Oh,
Del Home.
you're right. Not
Right.
Touch Upon a Star. Was it Touch Upon a Star? I don't
It
think it was
was
Touch
Touch
Upon
Upon
a
a Star.
Star.
Yeah, and I can't for the life of me come up with the name of the horse I want to say here, but that's why the SOR was so high there. Was
Yeah,
the
it could be, but I know that at fairgrounds they throw a lot. But my getting back, I mean, I know that horse lost as the favorite in the 64 there at Churchill, but
yeah,
it was in an 11 horse field. A tough group. This shows up as a 62, such a low grade
yeah,
3 oldie. I was really surprised, but off that last win, two back, off the layoff at Fairgrounds, romped at, a little less than 3-1, won by 4 lengths, kind of, and then came back and just, I mean, didn't run, but ran fourth in a 5 horse field. It was obviously a difficult group to your point. So I just thought and gets to 9.5 in the GSR, Oldie goes up 12 points.
yeah,
I mean, this horse should relish the distance. I mean, I basically said this horse should beat this field easy. I mean, and I know it's not that easy, but I thought this was such a competitive, fairly competitive group that you maybe could get around a favorite. I was like, man, if you could get 4-1 here, it'd be a dream. So lightly raced, gets an added distance, third off the layoff, face stuff for last out, I thought would be tough.
yeah. So Sansero was my second pick there. Um, I went with the two Prince of Power on top, 11%, 15-1 on the morning line. GSR goes up from 62 to 71 on the stretch out. Has is a horse that I know can get the distance because it won at 10 furlongs on the lead, which is hard to do at Turfway uh, as well. And the GSR basically stays the same as that Turfway race. So I don't think that's going to have trouble handling the distance. That was a group of 60s at 8.5, almost beat a group of 64s there, and then went up just similar to Sansero, went up and faced a group that was too difficult and didn't get the lead, and I think needs the lead here. But my hope is Prince of Power, who I'm going to call the He-Man horse, because for people who know that He-Man was the Prince of Power, um, and so I think back on the stretch out, back to a distance this horse wants, with that kind of speed advantage here. Yeah, this horse has a big shot to steal this on the front end, similar to the way we were talking about in the New Orleans Classic that race went off. Because there's just no other speed here. I mean, this is a 30-point pace advantage
Yeah.
for Prince of
I
Power, and I don't actually like Duke of Love. Um, Duke of Love is, one significant win is at Mountaineer.
Yeah, I
And
didn't like Duke of Love either. Getting to Prince of Power, though, Oldie, I was so confused on this horse. So if you look in our show sheet, I actually almost put this horse on top, and I'm like, oh, I'm going to put you second. But then I was like, oh wait, are you even going to? Oh, we lost your screen. Oh, it's back.
sorry, there we go.
I was like, are we going to even see this horse run in this race? Because this horse just raced a week ago. But then I look, Oldie, and I'm like, wait, hold on a second. Why did they even race in the grade 3 Commonwealth? And the grade 3 Commonwealth was a 78. And now the horse is dropping into a 62. And I'm like, wait, like, why did they even race in the grade 3
Yeah,
Commonwealth? And then I'm like, well, and I'd be actually curious, Oldie, to watch the race because, and I would play a daily double from Rebel Red in the last into probably the 1 and the 2, and I might even use a third horse just because the 2 is going to be such a price. But it was such a weird angle on Prince of Power. I'm like, did they just want the horse to get a race at Keeneland? Because they just kind of look like they just ran around the track,
yeah,
right? I mean, they didn't get the lead, even though the horse broke well. That was a very tough race. So did they just say, well, if we get the lead and we can go, we're going to run. But if we don't, we're just going to take a race in and we're going to show back up in a week. Like, I would really be curious because that horse doesn't probably want 7 furlongs, Oldie, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I don't think that was the first time the Prince of Power ever. It did run at Keeneland around 7 furlongs early in its career, I guess. So it's just, but predominantly had been racing 2 churns, and I'm like, what's happening? So I'll leave it
So,
at that. I do
well,
agree with you, but go ahead.
it was 7 days from getting the layoff line there, because I think
Yeah, I
that's
mean,
60 days. And, had it made it to the 15th, it probably would have gotten the layoff line there. So I'm considering that almost like first off the layoff there. And then it's not a week though. It's almost, it'll be over 10 days when
yeah,
it comes back,
correct.
which
I agree
means
with
that
you.
they entered this horse after that race was run.
Well, and the horse Brush was between and had no shot
Yeah,
versus that tough group. So to your point, they just wanted to get another race in, and in I mean it was just I guess kind of a workout or something. I don't know. I mean
yeah,
it was just so strange for me that they would have run that race, but they obviously have an angle there. Um, so
yeah. I mean that's what I'm thinking. I'm hoping the horse doesn't scratch, but um, because that's one of my top price plays of the weekend. So
no, I like if that horse runs, I agree with you on trying to get around Duke of Love because I didn't even put Duke of Love in my. Hey Matt, welcome back. I didn't even put Duke of Love in my third pick, Oldie. I ended up
oh,
on, whether it was Tennessee Lamb or Paroli. I'll let you talk about whoever you want to talk about there because I didn't really have a preference, but I thought either one of them, even, I probably end up on Tennessee Lamb as my third choice. Um, but comes from Gulfstream, had run well, lightly raced, kind of romp blast
yeah,
out, could sit the trip. There's obviously going to be speed in front with Prince of Power. So, um,
broke its maiden at the distance.
mm-hmm.
Has an E morning line angle. All of that, and it looks to be on the improve. You know,
And
pretty
toss the
light.
turf race,
Yeah,
right? I
of
mean,
course.
yeah, or 3
Yeah,
turf races. I mean, if you toss all the turf races, Oldie, all 3 of them, and if those horses weren't on the PPs here in Handy View, right, you'd probably look at this horse and be like, "Wow, you might have a runner here."
yeah. And as well, I mean, it ran really well at 10 furlongs. As a maiden, broke its maiden at this distance. Then they threw it on the turf and then went short. So, I also paid attention to the fact that it was a tonal list and that it was getting Jose Ortiz because this was my third pick as well
Yeah.
here. So, Jose's 25% with Rusty Arnold here.
Mhm. Yeah. Well,
So
and
that
like you said, morning line angle, long shot. I mean, it's I love that daily double. This
yeah,
is I haven't been excited at all meet for a daily double like this. So this will be I wish this one would have been last weekend in the tournament, but we'll see. Homebred for Calumet, I think has a big shot.
yeah, no, I agree. And what about, so you mentioned the 5 horse, kind of your marginally fourth choice, Paroli.
Yeah, I'm totally kind of off that horse at this point, I would say. I mean, I like the 1 and the 3 quite a bit, and I like your 2 if that horse makes it into the race. Um, Mike, look at all of the turf races on the 3. That was my point. I mean, that the 3 horses ran 4 turf races, and if you toss all of them, the horse has 2 wins in 2 seconds, right, in 6 races for
Yeah,
Tennessee Lamb. So
yes. And
yeah,
in 6 races on the dirt, it's made $155,000. In 4 races on the turf, 14,100.
Georgie Arnold needs to just stop trying to go to the turf. I was
Yeah.
surprised he went back there off the layoff, unless he had a reason to do that. But yeah.
Yeah, and the horse ran exactly the way we would have expected there as well.
But sneaky on now to move back to the dirt. But I love a daily double there. One into the could have a Jose daily double or get a price in the one or the two. So
Yep.
all
All
right,
right.
we that's the only two at Keeneland on Saturday. Now, amazing turf racing at your one of your favorite spots, Laurel Park.
Yeah. So Laurel, going a mile here. Um, the Dahlia stakes. So these are probably Fillies, I would guess. Once I click on it, I didn't notice that before. Yeah, here's a mirror. So, um, and I thought on top here, the top pick, Sparkle Blue was going to be very tough here. Um, you know, top win, top pick, top SOR, and top GSR here. Though that's going to win over 50% of the time as well, even though I don't see a badge there. It's Graham in his motion here. He last time this horse ran against a similar group to this, against the 64 group, going 9 furlongs, so the horse won. It's been facing tougher, now drops to a more reasonable level for it. And I just thought this horse might be a slight cut above on the drop here.
My second pick, we view the race the same in that the speed's going to stop up
Yeah,
front. You can run the race sim. Because I do agree with you that there's a lot of speed, and this could set up for one of the closers. I didn't think a lot of them in this field really had a shot, Oldy. I saw
yep,
there was a main track only there, but you and I had talked, and the weather looks great to keep all these turf races on, big fields. Um, the two probably going to try to save ground, get first jump. I ended up landing on the 7, who's the other horse that's coming, right? Really,
right.
it looks like the 2 and 7 were really the two players for me. I think it was a little bit of a coin flip. I ended up landing on the 7. You know, you won that 64, and then second off the sorry, I was looking at the 2. The 7 comes from Fairgrounds. That's right. Virginia
Right.
bred, and yeah, it's funny because I'm seeing a lot of these horses show up from Fairgrounds. I don't remember all of them. I need to put better notes, but in those 2 races ran really well. And the 2's taking such a big drop, Oldie. I can see why the 2's going to be a much deserving favorite, but this horse is also taking a drop and has proved to be impressive versus easier in 60 and 62s. Just hasn't been able to really get over the mark in those recent stakes races. But those races at Fairgrounds were tough, so
Yeah.
comes back. I think will be competitive, third off the layoff. I think getting a couple races under the belt was good. You can see last out really improved. And I don't know how often Barbosa rides at Laurel Park. I mean, if that's where he kind of makes a home
Yeah.
here in the spring, but I assume that was probably a go-to connection. Obviously, Ben Curtis riding elsewhere, but it hits at 16% with Stidham. Stidham, I thought would have this horse ready, and it did look to be between those 2 for me. So I don't disagree with you on Sparkle Blue. I just landed up on Tufani.
Yeah. No, Tufani was my second choice there. I just thought that, you know, Tufani is basically running against a very similar group to what he ran at Fairgrounds, and Sparkle Blue was taking the drop, and that's kind of
Yeah.
what put me over. Barbosa does ride it at Laurel
Okay.
most of the time, so that's
Is he one of the good jocks? I mean, he must be
yeah.
fairly. He must. Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
I mean, he's only
I
13%,
just
but
thought
he is good.
the only thing on the reason why I kind of got off Sparkle Blue, not off Sparkle Blue, but why I didn't really key so much on Sparkle Blue was, I mean, did win the Grade Two Hillsborough on the lead, but then the next win after that was obviously at Laurel at 9. I
Yeah,
mean, those wins have and this horse has run really well at 8 furlongs, but hasn't run well of recent. But second off the layoff, maybe that will do the trick for Sparkle Blue. But I just went with Tufani at a little bit more recent form, and maybe was rounding into form at a better time. So
Yeah, and then my third pick is the 4 Fantastical for
I
Joe
agree with
Sharp
you.
here.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
doesn't get Jose, but this horse has won every other race, will have tactical speed coming from turf sprinting and sprinting on the synthetic. The GSR says should be fine and can handle it. The horse has gone long before. And, I think this horse probably also has a big chance to kind of sit between the closers and the speed here, and be the one to finish that off. I think that as well, the 9 can't be ignored with Paco aboard there for Trombetta. Um, you know, but I think there's a lot of other speed signed on, even though they're almost 40% is appearing, and that's why it's hard to ignore that horse completely. And if you're getting a price there, and you're not singling in this race, you probably want to use this horse as well.
Yeah, I mean, because I got off Sparkle Blue, I would be using all 4 that you talked about. I agree with you. The 4 and 9 were my third and fourth pick. I almost put the 9 on top, Oldy, because and it mainly was because I looked at that horse a little bit before looking at Sparkle Blue and Tufani, so it's why I ended up getting off the 9, because I just thought that horse was maybe in the 19th amendment, maybe just not quite classy enough, right? I mean, in
Yeah,
15 starts, has hit the board in 11, but every time this horse has faced a little bit tougher, that 62 and 70 didn't run well. Paco didn't ride though, and
yeah,
Paco rides for Trombetta, and they crush it. To your point, I think 39%. So, and getting back to the turf, I think is key. So I agree. I mean, the 9 could for sure show up at a price, and whether you get 3 to 1, 4, 5, 6 to 1, I think you'll get a good price.
agreed. That's one for me to add there, so I'm actually going to type that in there so I don't forget that too. Um, and then on to the King T Leatherby Stakes, which is 5.5 furlongs. I thought this field was terrible.
I thought it was a 2-horse race. I wanted to try to find yeah, Saletta, the 2 was there, but I thought this was a 2-horse race, Oldie, but I didn't think the 10 had to win. I'll let you go first, but I didn't
Yeah,
think I thought the 10 had a big look, and you feel free to talk about wherever you want to go, but it really was a 2-horse race for me.
well, yeah. So I went with the long shot when I get into heaven,
Yeah,
um, on top.
I agree with you. That I did as well. Yeah.
And I was looking for a horse that wouldn't quite be as close as the 9 up front there for Trombetta. Um, moves to Trombetta for the first time on the 10, but the 6 has some tactical speed, can rate, has been good at 5.5. You know, I just thought that maybe this was this horse's day here. It does have a win against 66s. Um, and I thought maybe the 10, you know, was about the same 66 type horse and could be run off on the front end like it was in the Belmont Special, um, or in the Van Cleef, where it just there was too much speed there for it in those races, and that seems to be what happens when it doesn't win. Um,
I I was surprised, Oldie. We had just talked about Trombetta and Paco, but it's part of why I
yeah,
landed on the 6. Why did Paco go ride for Nolan Ramsey on the 6? Because I agree with you, and Ramsey obviously does well in the layoff. if the 10 was really live, why would have Paco not rode for Trombetta? Was
Yeah.
a little bit of my question mark. It just surprised me, and obviously he uses Sanchez, maybe predominantly, and maybe that's why. I mean, because he uses Sanchez so much that I shouldn't really look into that, but I did think it was between the 6 and 10. I put the 6 on top just because you know me, I like morning line angles and values, especially with the long shot there. You get a good win percent. So,
Yeah.
but it's kind of a toss up for me between the 10 and 6, but I do agree with you. I thought the rest of the field was pretty weak. I didn't, I think probably be an exacta play for me with the two of them.
Yeah. I mean, I thought the 4 is too slow for this race. I didn't think there was enough speed for this horse to have a chance to win. I also think even though the GSR says turf, it's really done its best running on the dirt as well. And, in those races where it was on the turf and it ran well, it didn't get home at all. So that's, dating back to about a year ago. So I just thought maybe that this 4 was just too slow early based on this race.
Well, and the rail's at 52 feet, Oldy. So
Yeah,
I'm assuming, and the rail wasn't out on the route race prior to, so I'm not
for the
really
splitting it
sure.
up.
You don't play it, but I didn't that horse is going to be so far back and in a big field. I mean, especially if the rail's out, I don't think that horse has a shot. Um, that's why I thought that the 10 and 6. I mean, I tried to look at Four Harp, and I bet that horse in the past for Butchie Reed, and I just thought the 10 or 6 just great
Yeah.
trips, and you end up with two great jockeys in Sanchez and Paco. So
Yeah. And so the other horse that's worth mentioning is the 2 here. The second choice, great idea, but looks a little class compromised to me here. And the other thing is, the jockey trainer combination here is 8% with Torbola, with Capuano here. So, below both of that they're worse together than they are apart.
yeah, Patrick was asking about the 3 Prince of Jericho. I mean, obviously has a bit of a look. My concern is this horse has never
Dirt horse.
sprinted 5.5. I I'm not. I mean, has hit the board in 17 of 20. I'm not. Maybe they're hoping for this horse to get washed off, but the weather's supposed to be great. But the GSR is not awful. It goes down. This is a classy horse, but I'm usually not a fan. What's up, Razor? Good to see you. Thanks for chiming in. Razor's been on
Going on,
fire
Riz.
with his basketball, baseball bets. Good for you, Razor. But I'm not in start 21. I like the 3 until the rail. Oh, Mark, good to see you. That's good to know
Yeah.
that they don't do well. So I appreciate you saying that. I like the 6 and 10 even more than, but I'm not a fan only of horses at start 21. And Brittany Russell's an amazing trainer. But now we're going to throw ourselves in a turf sprint, which are one of the toughest races at start 21. At start 5 or 10. Wow, Razor, good job. But only I just don't like to see that usually. It's just
Yeah. Well,
not a sign of strength.
I would not be shocked to see this horse scratch. I think you absolutely nailed it on the head. I think this horse may not have been entered as an MTO, but was
Mm-hmm.
entered eh, for this to be off the turf, and they'll just scratch out because it's a full field here. They probably didn't let them enter as an MTO here. Would be my guess.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and like you and I talked because I love turf racing. We love big fields, and we're like, okay, what's the weather going to be? And it looked great. So
Yeah.
um, that would be my concern, Patrick. Not that that horse isn't classy enough. I'm just not sure, that it really wants to turf sprint. But Brittany is an amazing trainer, like Mike said. I mean, she's great off the layoff. That doesn't surprise me. In general, she's great. So yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And especially at Laurel, she's a great trainer. So, um, all right, moving on to race 9, the Weber City Mistakes. Here, you want to lead this one off with your top pick here?
Sure. I this was definitely a coin flip race. I can see that I was looking at maybe I'll just land on the one. I was looking at the one or the seven, Oldie, but I'm just gonna say the one. It is the favorite here. Oh yeah, that's right. I'm gonna take a horse that just broke its maiden. That was my concern on the one versus a horse like the seven. But I'm gonna stick with the one. I thought this horse broke its maiden, looked pretty confident. This is not necessarily just a amazing group, Oldie. Nothing against somebody like Safe Trust or Moon Cachet. I thought there was a lot of speed here, and a lot of these horses needed the lead, Oldie, which is why I was a little bit worried about the seven. I thought the
Yeah,
three, the four, the five, the seven. And I was like, man, it's never easy to come back and win off your maiden, but I really couldn't get down with the six. And so I ended up landing on the one. He just broke its maiden, took a lot of money first time out in a 50 SOR for Brittany at Colonial. That was during NHC weekend. And, they get back here, they come back to, 8.5. And big GSR, I thought could be tough, but I didn't really love this race in all honesty. I mean, I think that the GSR says long all day, 9-10
yeah.
furlongs should be fine. Should have no issue here on the stretch out to 8.5. So that's where I landed, was on the one reply.
So I was just checking to try to see if a jockey had been named to either of these horses,
Yeah,
because there's two Brittany Russell horses here,
yeah,
and
yeah.
both are listed as undefined here. And I just checked Equibase, and that they don't have anything listed either. I'm going to assume one of these are going to get her husband, and one of these will get somebody else, if they're both staying in. And usually when you see undefined, that's not a good sign for whether the horse is really in this race. Um,
Well, we'll see where they send the one. I have a little bit of interest there. And the
yeah,
four was no joke either, Mark. But
right,
to Mark's point, Oldie, it was, wherever Sheldon lands is a telling sign. That makes sense. She's probably going to have her husband up on the best horse, right?
right, yes, agreed. Um, but I thought so I went with the long shot here, Moon Cachet,
I like it.
uh,
I like it.
with Mena aboard for Gorham. Um, you know, this horse really beat a group of 70s last time out and was disqualified.
Yes, I saw
So,
that.
and it's the second time for this horse against similar. I don't see why you don't see a similar race. This horse has shown the ability to be tactical as a win on the lead, and a win pressing, and then a win stalking. So, I think that this horse is super dangerous at a mid price at 5-1, which is probably if the 1 and 4 both stay in, I bet you get better than 5-1 there on that horse. Um, and Safe Trust was the 6 horse was in that race and was the horse that got put up against Moon Cachet in the DQ. Um, Safe Trust lost that race by almost 5 lengths.
Yeah. Hmm.
And, so I just think that even though Safe Trust won the next time out in a group of 76s, it was an allowance race, I think Moon Cachet just might be better at this point. And so I landed there. It's 20%. So third best win percentage. The SOR fits here. And if Safe Trust doesn't win, I think Moon Cachet is a pretty good answer here. And I did
Yeah,
not
no.
like, I liked the one underneath, but even with Sheldon aboard, I'm not sure this horse has enough speed in this race. Could end up looking like the Asmussen horse today at Keeneland, who also didn't look like it had enough speed, but got the pace set up anyways.
Well, that's what I think. With there's a lot of speed here, Oldie, between the 3, the 4, the 5, and the 7. They all seem to, many of them seem to need the lead, probably, um, in my opinion. So the 5's just not fast enough. The 2's not good,
Yeah,
but maybe the 4 doesn't. I think the 3 does. I think the 5 does. The 7 does not, probably.
right.
So, but I think it's going to still be sitting a close trip, sitting off all those horses, right? Can be sitting depending on who's in the race.
Yeah.
So, yeah. All right. I'm on the 1. You're on the 7. I also like the 7, and we already kind of talked about the 6, Safe Trust. I think obviously Fitz has won 2 in a row, a 70 and a 76. To your point, got up by DQ, 2 back.
Yeah.
I mean, this horse has never gone 8.5, Oldy, and now it looks like GSR says okay, but
Mm.
I don't know.
It's
So
a pretty big drop on the GSR there.
yeah, no, I agree. It's really, I had too many question marks on this horse stretching out.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. And as well, never been 2 turns because at Laurel, that's a 1 turn mile.
yeah, which is crazy. Start 12, they're deciding to jump into a stakes to go 2 turns for the first time.
Yeah,
Um, maybe the condition book never got them there over the last few months, but that seems a little bit surprising that they wouldn't have given a shot. But the horse has obviously won and done well sprinting, but I don't know, maybe they couldn't find a race. Wanted to finally give it a try. I don't know, but it
yeah,
was a big question mark for me. So
agreed. All right, so race 10, the Henry S. Clark Stakes. I thought there was really only 2 horses that had a chance to win this race. I'm interested in your thoughts here, and the my top pick is a confidence pick for me as well.
yeah, I went to a different horse because I didn't like the morning line on Neat, and I don't know why that morning line is like that, but I thought Neat was the real deal. I thought a lot of horses here didn't really have a shot. Um, I ended up going to. We talked about Delacour earlier, but ended up going to another horse off the layoff for Delacour, Fulmineo. Um,
Sure.
the yeah, the right? The 3 Rs. I don't love the most 2 recent efforts prior to the layoff, but those reversed much longer, Oldie. Those were or
Yeah,
those were much longer, 9 and 9.5. But they obviously knew they had talent here to drop into Saratoga and the Saratoga Derby, the Grade 1. But you get back to Stakes Company, and this horse won at 8 furlongs, both at Colonial and Pimlico. Didn't win at Laurel yet, but goes for the trifecta now here at Laurel to win an eight furlong race. And I just thought that he really, really, really wants 8 furlongs, and there's so much speed, Oldie. I mean, Ocean City is going to be absolutely winging it. And I
yeah.
thought that this horse with the inside post, save ground, find a good spot, and could come flying late. I think that it's going to end up being, Neat and the 3 horse are the 2 that I really, really looked at. I mean, I thought Neat had a big look, but I was like, wow, how can this 3 horse I really thought could improve, Oldie? And when you look at all of those 8 furlong races, even going back to Tampa and that Columbia Stakes, which was a 70, nearly won off the pace. And I just thought that this horse really seems to want the 8 furlong distance, and they finally get back today off the layoff. Delacour does good, and I thought had a big chance to upset. The morning line didn't really like, and it doesn't bother me. I don't think we'll get anywhere close to that price. I'm assuming that the 3 will take a little bit of money, but I do think we'll still get a good price.
All right, so I landed on Neat. Um, Dropping out of a grade one, been in, with better than this group. Um, you know, has a bunch of wins at 8 furlongs for actress.
Yeah.
Went in the Frank Kilroy Mile, um, which was just too tough for that horse there, which was a grade one. Second off the layoff for actress. It puts Barbosa aboard. Uh, I think that this is probably Neat's race to lose here. Um, if Neat does lose, I don't think it's because somebody outcloses Neat. I think it's because a horse like Ocean City gets away on the front end. I have zero confidence in Ocean City because Ocean City just seems to stop.
Yeah. Yes. I
Um,
agree with you. That's why I like the 3 and the 4 so much. Because I said, can this horse actually get away? But I agree, this horse seems to just stop on the front end, Oldie.
yeah, and this was a fairgrounds horse. It had Ben Curtis aboard. Now moves to Sheldon Russell. You know, Definitely needs to be on the lead. You saw what happened in the last race when it didn't get the lead. It
Yeah.
lost by 18 lengths. So and then it did battle on at 8.5. So maybe it could steal this race if things played out exactly right for it. One thing that might help would be if the two card trick scratches here, which
Yeah,
then would,
because card tricks for sure going to show speed, not as
right,
fast as Ocean City, but I just think Ocean City just goes fast all the time, Oldie, though, which is why I didn't really like Ocean City. I mean, if for somehow Sheldon can get that horse to relax, but I don't like what I don't, and I talk about this a lot in the coaching class, Oldie, when horses get a 2-3 length lead and they lose still versus easier, right? In the case
yeah,
here, losing in 62s and 64s, I just can't get down with it because they got the race the perfect way, right? Just
yeah,
perfect. And still can't win on the front end. And I think when you face a classy horse like Neat, that's just going to be too much to overcome. I mean, who comes, to your point, drops out of, much, much tougher races. But it's also why I like the 3. Again, I just thought was really sneaky there. But I thought you could get around the Ocean City on the front end.
yeah, and as well, Sheldon's been aboard before, and he has not been able to get the horse to relax.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yep.
so for me, Neat's probably a single here in the
And
race at
Ocean
5.
City's been on the rail only 4 out of the last 8 races and couldn't win any of them.
Yeah,
So it just hasn't, had gotten easy leads from the rail, kind of dueled on the rail, easy leads, and again, when they're versus easier oldie, that's just completely class compromise, in my opinion, when you face horses like the 3 or the
yeah,
4. So, yeah. 2 horse race for me and the 3 and the 4, but I put the 3 and you got the 4. So
yep.
it's going to be a good race. Another good one at Laurel.
All right. The last stakes at Laurel, the Federico Tesio stakes. They're challenging me with all these names and everything here. Um, I know most people would think I would be on the 5 Kentucky Outlaw, just knowing the type of horse that I tend to pick. Um, but I'll take the shot and go first. I ended up on the 9 Pay Billy as my top pick here for Gorham. Winner of 3 of 4. It just missed in the one it didn't win here. Stretches out to 9.5 to 9, but won at 8.5 last time out by almost 4 lengths against a similar group. So I just think that this horse might be both on the improve and a little bit better than this group.
That was my third pick. I did not. This was the out of all the Laurel races. This was my one that had kind of the least opinion on. Um, I ended up landing on Surfside Moon, Oldie, and second time getting to 9 furlongs and raced at 9 furlongs last out. Has a couple of layoff lines there, but I ultimately just kind of got around that. I thought could improve, lightly raced. It's hit the board in 3 of 6 as a 3-year-old colt. It didn't necessarily run a bad race last out, and that 70 SOR ran second up there at the Big A at a big price in the Withers. And I thought could come back here. They show up at Laurel. They leave New York for Pennsylvania bred. So maybe they'll end up in Pennsylvania as well at some point. But in a race that I thought was pretty wide open, Oldy, because I actually looked at Kentucky Outlaw, the 5-horse that you mentioned. I looked at the 9. I just thought, you're getting back the big GSR increase, right? I mean, gets up to an 84. And again, ran its best race probably since breaking the maiden at 9 furlongs. So the distance shouldn't be a question really at all. So it's a bit of I think a question mark on this horse with the layoff lines, but I like the race last out and I thought could improve.
We covered the Withers that day, and
Yeah.
I'll say is that race featured a pretty hot pace, and everybody but the winner was exhausted, and this was the horse that was passing people late.
Yeah, you can see that, right?
Yeah, and so I just don't know that, and I don't see that kind of pace in this race. I think Kentucky Outlaw is a nice horse, and could be a really nice horse, and I could be wrong here. At a price was my second pick here, behind Pay Billy. And I just had more questions about Kentucky Outlaw than I did Pay Billy. But if Kentucky Outlaw gets an easy lead, I just found it hard to get past the kind of the top 3 here for me, which were Kentucky Outlaw, Right Wing Runner, and Pay Billy, because you just won't have those tired horses. But if you can beat Pay Billy, and Surfside Moon, you're going to get a pretty good price here, because Kentucky Outlaw is 8-1 on the morning line, and Right Wing Runner, my third horse, who has a win over 62s, nearly beat a group of 66s last time out, is 8-1 on the morning line for Scott Lake, and for a Parks pairing of Scott Lake and Frankie Pennington as well. What about you? Where did you land for your second and third here?
So I agree with you on Kentucky Outlaw. That was my second pick. So my top pick, Surfside Mood, then Kentucky Outlaw. I'd say Pay Billy would be my either third or fourth pick. I put Just a Fair Shake, Oldie, as my, let's say, third pick. This horse is 100. Hey, Mr. Chris Walsh, good to see you, buddy. I hope all's well. The Just a Fair Shake, Oldie. I mean, at 11%, anything at 10-1 or above on this horse is a play from a value perspective, because at 11% to win, if you multiply that time odds at 10-1 or even 9-1, you're at about 100%. And to me, that's value. I think you'll get it in a race like this because the 5 is going to take so much money. I think the 7, the 1, I think some others will take some money. That the 10 maybe is more of a vertical play. But when you look, the lightly race, I think Rodriguez rides, which was intriguing, right? And Rodriguez is not rode, but great jockey up here at Laurel and in this part of the country. And the GSR says great. I mean, the horse has won 2 of 3. Did nothing wrong, to be honest, Oldie, in that stakes race 2 back, which is, been facing a little bit similar horses here. I mean, this is obviously a step up, but, for a 3-year-old facing 3-year-olds here, I thought I had the ability to improve at just an insane price. As the morning line is just really far off. I'm not sure what type of value it'll get, but I mean, this horse, when you look, as it seems to probably have talent. And again, I there's nothing really wrong in that race, I would say, 2 back. I mean, the horse looks like it might have even kind of had a rough trip because it broke well. It looked to find a spot and it ended up wide on the turn. So not really sure what happened, but I think can get a better effort here on the stretch out to 9. I thought had a big look.
Yeah, no, and I could see that too. I saw the 7 wide there as well, so maybe that horse was better than that result there. Um,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so I could see that. I don't think this horse will be 6-1, just based on, the
Yeah.
morning line has Pay Billy at 5-2, at 5-1. I think Pay Billy goes off at 9-5 or below, and I think Surfside Moon goes off around that 3-1. So that and we didn't even talk about Sacred Thunder, who has been the favorite in two of its last four stakes races. That it hasn't won any of them, but probably will take money as well there.
Yeah.
So I think you'll get your 10-1 or maybe 8-1 on Just a Fair Shake there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, should be a good price. So all right. That was the last at Laurel. So we got a handful more at Oaklawn and the Great Race Place.
Yep, and then one on
One
Sunday
on
as well.
Sunday.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. So the Bathhouse Row Stakes.
So
Um,
I'm gonna let you talk about this one first because I actually agree with you. And when I first looked at this race, I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is a pretty cool play." You don't get
yeah.
these all that often. I thought so. I'm gonna let you. You're covering Oaklawn, so this one's all yours.
All right. The E top pick, Caldera, was 15-1 on the morning line, 6-1 on the E morning line, 21%. GSR fits here at 85. So for Dwayne Lucas, this horse broke poorly in Louisiana Derby, so
Yeah,
I'm just throwing that race out. And if you throw that race out, the race against in the Sunland Derby is better than any horse in this race has run.
yeah.
Um,
And the source wins the race sim.
yeah, and there's no reason with Bayerano aboard to think that this horse doesn't run big here. Gets a better break and runs similar to that Sunland Derby at 8.5 here at 9. So that to me that this horse it just makes a lot of sense and makes sense over the favorite instant replay here. This is a my race horse, so probably take money. Though I think 6-1's probably even optimistic. I'd be happy with 3-1 here probably for coach and my racehorse there. Um,
Yeah.
I didn't really think much to secure the Baffert here,
Hmm.
and you know, so and that horse could take some money, but if that horse was live, he would be shipping in one of his real jockeys here, and not Edwin Maldonado.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I agree a lot. I thought instant replay would be tough, but I did land on Caldera with you. I thought would be, again, wins the race sim. I didn't necessarily, Louis going to be on the lead for Moquette with him. I thought instant replays probably going to get a really good trip, Oldy, but doesn't have a ton of speed.
Right.
So you're going to have to find the right spot. I mean, this horse has struggled in the last couple of races in Louisiana Derby, but I mean, it's Flavian Pratt and, obviously Louis in town as well, right in here at Oaklawn. So I thought Instant Replay probably a big deserving favorite. I didn't like the price really at all, though. I mean, the Instant Replay, I really do think will probably be a really short price, Soldy. I mean, whether 4-5, even
Yeah.
money, not 1-1, even money. But, I and it's Pratt and it's Bradcock. So that's where I would have landed with my second pick was instant replay. But I'm with you on Caldera. I thought that had a big look. So
Yeah, and this is Gary and Mary West Homebred Brad out of Maximum Security, who they also owned. Um, but you know, doesn't have that maximum security speed. Has one effort here at Oaklawn that was not good earlier in the meet against non-winners of one. I just think that 4 to 5 or uneven money is crazy on this horse here. And
Yeah.
if we run the race sim, at first call, this horse is almost 4 lengths back, and it's really going to need something to run into, and I just don't think it's here. I mean, you have him, Caldera, and to secure, and that's it for speed. And Caldera doesn't need the lead and probably won't be on it. And we're all assuming the Baffert will go and that him will go, but um, I just don't think you're going to get that hot of a pace here for instant replay to run into.
Yeah, I could see that. So, and I
But
didn't really have anybody outside those two, Oldie. I didn't know if you had a third
I
choice.
I liked a little bit of first division for McPeak here. Didn't run in the Arkansas Derby. Probably didn't make sense to be in the Arkansas Derby either.
Yeah, they
But
had pretty big ambitions there because the horse hadn't won an allowance.
right, that this horse has no speed either. Another
Hmm.
closer, but I think could get a piece, just like instant replay. Uh, use underneath, using your exactas against instant replay or instead of instant replay, and hope that this horse is able to outclose that horse, and you get a big price there on the bottom side, would be my thought.
All right, I'm called Dara and instant replay.
I'm Caldera, and then instant replay, first division, and instant replay underneath.
All right, okay, we'll see. I thought that this race 7, Oldie, I thought was the tough, or not race 7, it's race 10. I thought this race was really tough. I don't know your thoughts, but this one to me was one of the tougher ones we looked at out of the weekend.
Yeah, so I don't know that I describe it as tough. I just, you know, either this quantum burst is a monster or it's not. And it's kind of been like every other race, it's not. So, um, I thought Miss Martini, the 7 for Asmussen, has a big look here.
Mm.
The horse is tactical, stretching out. GSR says should get the distance. It's by Curlin. Um, the this is, Asmussen historically has done well with Curlins. And, I just thought that this horse had a big shot here. I prefer a different jockey other than one of his sons, but that is what it is, so to speak here. But I didn't even like Quad Burst, the favorite, as one of my top 3 here.
Yeah, I didn't put it in my top 5. No, and not that I'm sure the horse will run okay. I didn't. There was too much other horses that had upside and at a good price, Oldie, for me to ever look at taking a horse at even money like Quantum Burst.
Well, and I think Quad Burst might need the lead, and Spanker Boom's faster,
Correct.
according to the
Yes.
pace number.
Yeah.
And, to me, if Spanker Boom can clear, I don't think Spanker Boom can win, but Spanker Boom could really hurt Quantum Burst's chances here.
Hmm. Hmm. I Princess Aaliyah, the 6 horse, is somebody who I followed with Chris Couples. He's in the chat a lot, and we've
Yeah,
talked about her at Keeneland. And I talked to him actually before he got on the show. His thought is like, well, she may have bled again or bled last out. And they now
I
have
remember that.
Lasix again, so that could be the concern. I ended up landing on Jenkin. On top, Oldie. I was looking for a price in this race, and I mean, she really has run well. She ran in the mud, ran well, won by a length, and then prior to that broke her maiden in a 56, and she's been at Oaklawn and didn't necessarily run in the honeybee, but that was way too tough as
Yeah.
a 74. And then they had a lot of ambition, obviously, right? I always like seeing that. At least,
Yeah.
sometimes you see it and you kind of question it, but they had high hopes, and I get it. I mean, if I had a nice horse like this, and obviously not running in the honeybee was maybe disappointing, but maybe they found some excuses. And then to drop into the Fairgrounds Oaks, they obviously were really looking to get to the Oaks. And but she didn't run like awful. I mean, yes, she didn't run, but she also was facing an 80, right? I mean,
Yes.
she ran 6 and lost by 13 lengths, but again, she doesn't fit with that group. She's not a top filly in the country to try to qualify, right? And so they're
Right.
smartly come back to Oaklawn where she's run well, and Schultz or Lindsay Schultz, obviously 13%, but puts up Arietta. There's no issue here. I mean, he or she, I'm not sure if Lindsay Schultz, I don't know he or she well, but it's at 14%. I mean, it's fine. I just thought it was a sneaky play and a really, wide open race for me,
Yeah.
and the horse is, again, I think that the horse is classy. It's a homebred for Short Leaf Stable, who I don't know, but I just thought, and you get some morning line value, 18%. I mean, you get anything around 7, 10 to 1. I mean, you really only need 5, 6 to 1 to get the right value on this horse, Oldy, and you're going to get 7, 8, maybe 9 to 1. So in a wide open race, I was price shopping, so that's where I landed.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I looked at this pretty hard at this horse as well. For my second pick, I ended up landing on Anomia, uh, the McPeak horse,
Yeah,
who actually did run pretty well in the Virginia Oaks. Needs to be forwardly placed. That her honeybee was ruined by, you know,
yeah.
not
Tough
really breaking
post.
well and
That's a
taking
tough
herself out
post.
early.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But, from a, you know, was very, very close to pulling that upset in the Virginia Oaks. Um, and, eh, Juarez picks up the ride here, I think, or stays aboard. And, I think this horse probably has if it's forwardly placed, it has a big shot here and may actually be that the best horse in this race just isn't consistent enough to trust,
Mhm. Mhm.
would be my thought here.
Yeah, no, I that was my third pick was the 3. I was 1, 6, 3, 7, 8. Um, and I probably would use a handful like that in any type of vertical bet, and we can talk
Yeah,
about Legally Empress maybe is the last one. I mean, it's Torres Rodriguez. I mean, a nice horse. I mean, she's obviously bred really well. I think she's come along. She's won at Oaklawn. As a long shot, it's not the worst long shot. I mean, I had a lot more
yeah,
upside in the one, but I mean, she's run well. I mean, she's run well with Lasix, without Lasix. She won last out. She broke her maiden. I mean, there's a lot of speed though here, right? And that
right.
was the question mark for me, and where I ended up really liking the one, because the one had shown the ability to kind of stock off the pace and could sit the trip. Where somebody like the eight's going to kind of be in the outside post with all this speed, I think it's going to have to work it out from out there. Was kind of my concern, but again, not the worst long shot in a field like this in a race that, to me, which I think you agree, um, was fairly wide open to try to get
Yeah,
around Quantum Burst. So
yeah. No, I thought Legal Empress, was, that was my third pick, but I thought she had a nice look as well here.
and and I like Mark's. Not I don't like the random comments, so nobody paid attention. We have that trouble with Twitch, so sorry
Yeah,
about that, y'all. But Mark, I appreciate you chiming in. I don't know Short Leaf Stable, but I love homebreds a lot of times. Right when you find the right angle on a homebred, I mean, they can be little gold mines. So I'm excited for this the stakes race will be on Saturday. I
for sure.
wasn't, and now maybe I am.
For sure. And um, then we have the next race, the grade two, $1.2 million Oaklawn handicap. I don't know the last time you saw a $1.2 million grade two, but we have
Right.
one.
Good for Oaklawn. That's
Yes.
incredible.
Um, and here you have the grade two and grade three Slayer Skippy Longstocking, um, who just loves those, you know, grade twos and grade threes. Is 10 of 30 lifetime, 5 of 14, won this race last year. So, yeah, and then you have First Mission. The two of them are going to go off probably pretty equal odds. That being said, I liked an upset here. I don't know about you. I thought
I landed on Skippy. Not like high confidence, but I want to hear your long shot.
I thought there's a lot of pace here, and when I say a lot of pace, I think it's going to be a contentious pace. As well as I thought Asmussen has a couple horses here. Eh, And I thought he might send Disarm here, who has shown speed in the past. And I thought Red Rot 1, who won the Grade 3 Essex last time out at this distance in a similar pace setup, could get another ideal setup here. And this horse 100% needs the setup. If it doesn't get the setup, it will look like the Razorback Handicap or the Tinsel here. Uh, but if it gets the setup that this horse is capable of beating a group like this, and at 15 to 1, could blow up the board here.
Oh, that's good to know, Mark. So the crazy thing about Red Route 1, Oldy, I mean, Skippy and Red Route 1 dominate 9 furlongs. I mean,
Yeah,
Skippy's hit the board in 10 of 14 with 5 wins, but don't dismiss your long shot Red Route 1, right? Also has
5
five
to 10,
wins.
yeah.
And in a total of 6 wins. So this horse has 5 wins, a second and a third, and 10 tries. So hit the board in 7 of 10 at 9 furlongs. And then you go look, and the horse has 1 win and 15 tries outside that. So
Yes.
I mean, the connections should have this horse continually running at 9, in my opinion. Steve with his son Eric up. I just thought that Skippy doesn't necessarily have to have the lead, Oldie, and if there ends up being some other speed around Skippy, I think Skippy just gets a comfortable trip. I haven't bet Skippy a lot, actually. It's just not somebody who I've really played, but I in a race like this, I just thought Skippy might just be better than this group. But because I didn't really love First Mission, I thought Banishing might have had a little bit of a look. I could see why you would be, try to play against here with maybe there being quite a bit of pace or just some questionable runners.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think Skippy's just classy. And I mean, it would be a nice win. I mean, Skippy's won so much money. How much money has Skippy won? 3.4 million.
Million.
I
Yeah.
mean, pretty incredible, right? But it hit the board in 19 of 30. It's a great handicap. I mean, like you said, not often you see a $1.2 million grade two.
Well, and if you think about it, if you throw out all the times they've tried to run Skippy in a grade one,
Yeah.
Skippy's record looks a lot better because
No,
most
yeah,
of these
you're
losses are
yeah.
grade ones.
Yeah. Pegasus, Breeders' Cup, Whitney, Stephen Foster, Breeders' Cup, Pegasus. I mean, Skippy faced the best of the best and keeps running. I
Yeah.
mean, it's actually pretty impressive, right? And you can go all the way back. I mean, to your point, been running in graded stakes since 2022. Well, yeah,
Yeah.
2022. So essentially 3 years Skippy's been running against the best in the country. So, um, Safi got a good one. I rad rides. Just a really nice horse, but
Yeah.
not a huge confidence for me in this race, Oldie, I would say. But I would put on top. I'm not sure I would use too many horses. I could see, I love your angle on Red Route 1, though. Gonna get a really good price. So, you know, yeah.
Yeah. And for me, Skippy was my second pick here. And then Disarm was my third pick. I didn't like First Mission either here. Um, if it was 8.5, I'd probably like First Mission more. But First Mission just hasn't been as good as I thought this horse was going to be.
Hmm.
And if
Yeah.
I go back, you'll probably see a note here from 2023 saying maybe Cox's best 3-year-old. And then the horse got hurt and was, but, you know, I just think that Skippy's a little better than First Mission. I think that this is going to set up well. A horse like Banishing, it, on the stretch out, it's going to be right there on the lead. Tarantino, um, Alexander Helios. So Safi's not the type to choose one leader. In fact, there are many times that two of his horses knock each other out, going crazy on the front end. So I just think that there's all the way down to First Mission, possibly 6 horses who could be battling out for the lead here.
Yeah, no, I agree. Saya is going to be aggressive on the 5 with Helios. The
Yep.
6, the 7, the 3, I think all are going to be there. Obviously, Skippy's going to be forwardly placed. Irad will be aggressive. If Irad get the lead, he could be long gone. I don't think Skippy need the lead though, but we'll see.
Yeah.
I
But
mean,
Tarantino too with Maldonado aboard, he's a very aggressive
yeah,
jockey as well.
yeah. No, that's why I agree with you. I think there's going to save the clock. You think Pratt going to win on First Mission? We'll see. That's his inside post. That's a tough task. I mean, maybe he tries to sit the trip, but I don't know.
I mean,
Question marks for me on First Mission.
yeah, I mean, look at the first call on the race sim.
Yeah. No, I know. Yeah, they're all right there, right? So,
Yeah. I mean, that's
all
how I
right,
ended up that way. But
it's definitely going to be a good one. It's got First Mission and Skippy right there at the finish.
yep. All right, on to Santa Anita and the Grade 2 Santa Maria Stakes. Uh, I thought this race was, this was another confidence pick for me. I thought this was one of the two Bafferts. I went with Rishi over Splendora here. I thought Rishi's just been in against better.
Yep.
Nearly won the Beholder Mile last time out, and now drops into a Grade 2, gets 10 points of SOR relief here, and won the last time it was in against a 72 SOR. I think that this horse just might be a cut above the rest of this field here.
Would be probably a single. It would be a single for me. Not even probably
Yeah.
Oldie. If I was playing a horizontal here, I'd definitely single Rishi. I didn't really like Splendora only because Rishi just looked to be more of the standout Baffert. And I know sometimes like, oh, the other Baffert wins. They're both going to be such short prices. And I don't really have a lot more to say than what you said because the one just looks better than Splendora
Yeah.
from an SOR, from a comparison of races. I mean, from the get go of the career, from the wins. I mean, it's hit the board in 12 of 13, and grade or Group 1, Group 3 down in Chile. And those show up. We have the
Yeah.
SORs are just right here. Wins in the Las Flores in the Grade 3 was 3-1, and you really can't. You can't. I'm kind of similar to you. I'm saying the same thing, but the races at 8 furlongs and 7 were fine, and I don't think she'll have any trouble really with the 2 churns. So I just liked her quite a bit more than Splendora. Splendora going 2 turns for the first time. The GSR
Yep.
drops. Didn't really run in those grade 2s and grade 1s at both at Santa Anita. So they both raced in the Santa Monica, right? And I know that Rishi just looked to run better. So
Yeah.
that was for me. I agree with you. I thought it would be a confidence player single.
Yeah, and I did put Ultimate Authority as my second pick because there is the angle when there's multiple Baffords in a race, you take the Yak team. That hasn't been playing out so much this year. But I thought it had a little bit of a look underneath. But needs to improve a lot here. So
Yeah.
the I'm really just I don't want to know that we should need to spend that much time on it. I agree with you. Rishi top pick, top pace, top SOR, top GSR. So that's another 52 percenter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. We got one more. It's a Sunday race, right?
Yeah, this was a really interesting field in the Grade 3 American Stakes going a mile. Here, uh, I thought that that there were a few horses that had a chance to win here, um, and then you had Cabo Spirit who doesn't like to win, but is always kind of around. So that there were I landed, and I don't know about you, I landed on Endlessly, the 4 horse, who's 3 or 4 at the distance. Um, you know, they ran in the they tried this horse in the Kentucky Derby, tried it longer, now finally gets back to and really so for the first time since 2023 gets back to the distance the horse seems to want to run, which is a mile. Was my thought here. So I ended up with Endlessly on top, the 4 horse, the second pick for the second Scotty pick here.
Wow. I looked at this race briefly and I was trying to get around King Gosford, Oldy, and Flavian's just flying. Flavor Flav is flying all over the country.
Yeah.
It ends up at Santa Anita on Sunday. But I mean, Gosford on it. We get our own morning line, Oldy, so we actually get a morning line before the odds maker, and gonna be gonna be gonna be really short price, Oldy, but had just won a 66. I mean, I was like, well, getting back to Endlessly, who you talked about, I'm like, well, Endlessly has actually showed a lot of talent and has won some really nice races, grade 3, grade 3, grade 3. I mean, yeah, that was a grade 2 and won fairly easily, but got a pretty easy lead, right? So Cabo
Yeah.
Spirit's got speed as well. To me, it was between the 1 and the 4 when I looked at this race because I really was just going to try to beat King of Gosford. I just didn't necessarily see all of that. And the 1 and 4 both were really coming from some nice races. The 4 obviously coming from much better, but had some layoff lines. So I ended up landing on the 1, Zio Joe. I mean, 1 in the grade 1, Frank Kilroy last out and ran second in the 74. I mean, fairly impressive. I mean, and it has a couple of races where in the 3 gave it up in that race. So the 3 was on the lead,
Yeah.
Cabo Spirit, and then the 1 caught, and then the 1 got beat. I don't know who won that race, but and then you go 2 back for the 1 and didn't necessarily run a great race, but maybe a little bit of a troubled trip in the 70 and the 72. But those were all tougher than this race, Oldie. And that's where I was so surprised that King of Gosford was going to be such a short price, probably. And
Yeah.
I know it has the big win percent, but I thought the 1 maybe could sit a good trip, has shown the ability to do so on the Santa Anita turf course at 8 furlongs, has a couple of wins there. So I went with the price, probably in the 1. I'm guessing we'll get somewhere around 5-1, 7-1, 8-1. I think that so much money is going to end up going in on the 4 and 6, probably, that the 1 going to be the horse for value for me. So
Yeah, and I didn't like the 6 at all. I thought Cabo Spirit probably won't win probably, but could finish in the money. But I think Cabo Spirit's presence there makes it hard for King of Gosford to win as well.
Yes.
And
Yes. Yep.
and that if King of Gosford goes with Cabo Spirit, King of Gosford's going to get burnt out on the front end. If King of Gosford tries to lay off, Cabo Spirit can get away because they're the only
Yeah.
two speeds in this race. And you don't see that all that often on the West Coast in a mile on the turf either. That there's so little speed. So um, that was my thought was, and then your one Zio Joe was my third pick there, and I saw the same thing you did there with it almost getting home in the Kilroy Mile there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, nice race. Was a big price, 23-1 that day. But yeah, and there's the racing, like you said. And
Yeah.
the 1 and 4 are both closing there, Oldie. So if the 3 and 6 and the 6 falters, and depending on what Mike Smith does up front for Papa Padromo, with the 3 Cabo Spirit, I mean, the 1 and 4 both are going to sit the trip, and both seem
Yeah.
fairly classy. So
Yeah. And the one really only has one way to go. The one's got to go fast and got to go fast early. So, and King of Gosford just hasn't faced as good of horses as, you know, Endlessly and Zio Joe and Cabo Spirit here.
the
You know,
6 always gets in trouble too, Oldie. Look at the trouble line. I mean, so get off the 2 wins, but save Grand Mile late bid in a 70. But then you go to all those mid 60s. Look, Lack Room, Altered, Mild, Shuffled, On Heels. Like, I mean, and obviously figured out in the last couple of races, but that horse seems to find trouble a lot. That's just something I try to avoid, especially at a short price.
Agreed.
All right. Well, I'm on Zio Joe. You're on Endlessly. Both should be okay prices.
Yeah, no, I think that I'm hoping to get 3-1, 4-1 on Endlessly, but maybe even 5-2 I'd be okay with there. Yeah, and that kind of wraps up our 15 or 16 stakes races for the weekend there. Appreciate
Yeah,
you.
That was a good group of races.
Yeah, appreciate you working through these with me, and I hope everybody got some good information and has a great betting weekend. And we
Yeah,
will
you
see
too. Looks
you.
like good races.
Yeah, and so tomorrow, Scotty and David, I believe, for the road to the NHC at 11:30 Eastern,
Yep.
and then the stretch run is Saturday, 2:45. Yeah, 2:45 Eastern with Justin and I, and we will be covering many of these races and showing the Laurel and San Anita and Keeneland races live along with Gulfstream as normal, but no stakes races there. But yeah, so going to be a fun weekend. Happy, weekend, Easter weekend for those of you who celebrate with your families as well. And thank you for taking the time with us.
Thanks. I'll see you Saturday. Have a good weekend. Good luck the next couple days. And we'll be live, Oldy and I, on Saturday. Chat soon.